extraordinary. And as you get older, your body changes quite a lot. But do you fully understand what's happening? Well, a recent study reveals that 47% of Irish women believe there is not enough information readily available to them on women's health issues and menopause. We're joined now by Dr. Deirdre Lundy to shed some light. You're very welcome to the show, and I'm delighted to have you on today, because there are some of the biggest load of rubbish and misconceptions and misinformation and Dr. Google when it comes to menopause. Why do we still have such a stigma, particularly in this country, when it comes to admitting that we're having these issues, that, yes, I'm a woman, I have menopause?
That I'm not 100% sure about. I know that Irish women, compared to other English-speaking Europeans, tend to be, we perceive them to be a little bit more body shy. Like our per capita sales of tampons is one of the lowest in Europe. Wow. So maybe because of that awkwardness or shyness, anything got to do with hormones and sexuality is like taboo, whereas it's dinner conversation in my house.
Which it really needs to be.
It
so
should be.
You're one of them in normal woman menopause. What way does it start and what way does it finish for the average healthy Irish woman?
Yeah, it kind of varies. Like, so there are symptoms you get when it's just beginning, because the hormone levels, while not particularly low, are fluctuating. And then there are hormones that develop as you go deeper in. And then there are symptoms, and then there are symptoms that get much worse years and years later.
So how long does it last from, let's say, peri-menopause, which is the start of it, to the time your periods have stopped, you're out the other end, that ship has sailed?
The flushes and sweats can go on until your mid-60s.
Oh, you're joking.
Yeah, and they're much more likely to do so if you're overweight or smoking. So, now, that doesn't mean that protects you if you don't be overweight or smoking, but it's a farce to say you have 2 years of this and you'll be fine. Really? That's an absolute lie.
And what age do the symptoms normally start? I know I'm doing general.
Certainly if somebody was under 45 and they were getting like a lot of symptoms, I would look for possibly other causes, although 9 times out of 10 it is just a young menopause. But like I had a woman who had horrendous tiredness, low mood, heat intolerance, and her thyroid was abnormal. So, it's not always just menopause.
I've got everything. I've got the early menopause, I've got the thyroid problems, I've got loads of things shoved at me. I've no hope at all, really, do I?
The saddest thing is, well, not the saddest thing.
Yeah, I should have. Put me out of my misery.
Stop. Your problem is, like so many women, it took you a long time to get to someone who knows what they're talking about. Because we don't have a faculty of sexual reproductive health in Ireland like they do in England, America, France, Spain. So you either go to the GP or go to the gynecologist, and I'm sad to say that a lot of us don't really know what we're doing.
But
yes,
because we don't. If it was men going through the
we're
same
not trained,
thing,
but we're not trained. There's no required training on menopause for GP trainees. None.
That's what went right off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can I ask you, is there a blood test that you can?
That's a good
because
question.
nobody even ever asks.
Yeah.
Like a GP will never do it.
The answer is probably no. Is the straightforward, because in the beginning, particularly when you're just starting with your flushes and sweats, and certainly if you're still getting periods, which many women will still be having periods and getting symptoms, blood tests are so unpredictable. The estrogen that comes out of the ovary is 3 different types, and they're released in a pulsatile fashion at dawn.
What does pulsatile mean?
Like
one of those air fresheners in the bathroom, basically. Off it goes.
So unless we're all prepared to meet in my surgery at dawn on a daily basis, I can't measure your estrogen levels efficiently.
Wow.
Not when they're fluctuant. I could certainly measure them.
What about the hormone level, though?
Estrogen is a hormone, yeah.
Is there nothing else, though?
Well, there's follicle-stimulating hormone, there's progestogen, there's testosterone, there's luteinizing hormone, but none of them really help diagnose the menopause. The menopause is diagnosed by symptoms alone. It's a clinical diagnosis.
Really?
Yeah. So I've had so many women with classic symptoms come to me and say, well, my GP did the blood tests and they're normal, so there must be something else wrong with me. And I want to pull my hair out when I hear that, because it's absolute rubbish.
So what are symptoms? And I know a lot of women are lucky they don't get the horrendous symptoms, but like a lot of people don't get horrendous periods. Some people aren't so lucky. So what are what should people be looking at?
The early ones, because they're in phases. So the early ones are usually vasomotor, as they call them. Flushes, sweats. You can wake up 3, 4, 5 times a night, dripping wet, freezing cold when it starts to wick off of you. So your sleep is destroyed. Then the emotional stuff starts. Some of that is because estrogen is mood elevating, and when estrogen levels drop, like after a baby, you can hit the floor. But some of it is because you're being woken every 15 bleeding minutes all night long. So sleep deprivation causes a lot of mood and energy problems. As you get deeper in, you can start to notice big changes in your collagen, skin, hair, nails, and pelvic floor. So an awful lot of women who are never leaking.
Don't say pelvic floor. It's not ahead of me now.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So an awful lot of women who never leaked urine before start.
As you walk along, like.
No, when you cough, sneeze, trampoline.
We discussed this before, Elaine.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was just naturally happened hormonally without doing anything to yourself. My
It's
God.
because the pelvic floor's integrity is supported by collagen, and collagen needs good estrogen levels to keep tight.
Can you get collagen
Or
shots?
frequent.
No, but you can use estrogen for the pelvic floor locally, like in the vagina. And then as you carry on living, being chemically castrated, which is essentially what happens to us, you start to notice an increase in things like vaginal dryness and pain, cardiovascular disease becomes more common, osteoporosis becomes more
That's
common.
a huge issue.
Yeah.
Because
Osteoporosis, that's part of it as well, is it?
Oh, absolutely. Estrogen prevents osteoporosis, and low estrogen absolutely accelerates it.
So would you recommend somebody goes on some form of medication?
The best authority for advice is the British Menopause Society. They're better than any US or European or whatever. The Australian authorities are pretty good too. And they say that at the moment, with the products we have, we don't recommend a global, oh, Jesus, you're 50, take hormones. But if you are symptomatic, the benefits so outweigh the risks that there's no reason to hesitate.
Because there was
outweigh the risks.
there was the breast cancer thing with the...
Yeah,
gone.
this is what you hear.
It's gone.
So annoying misconceptions
so
around
annoying.
that.
Yeah.
Explain to us how this came about and why it's rubbish.
This is important to understand. About 16 years ago, a research study was published out of America called the WHI, the Women's Health Initiative, where they enrolled 68,000 women. They put them half on HRT and half on placebo. You know, they didn't know which was which. And then they watched them. And they wanted to see whether there was enough health protection to make it justifiable to give everybody HRT. That was one of their goals. The problem was the only product they trialed was the horse urine hormones. You know horse urine?
Pretty obsolete.
Yeah, it's completely obsolete, and it kind of was then, but in America it still has a strong hold on the market. In Ireland we do not recommend it at all. Okay. And then the women were elderly, like some of the women were 75, 79 years old when they started. So when you look at the group they were studying, we thought, oh my God, I'm not sure I would have started somebody on HRT at 75 years of age. But anyway, that's what they did.
It's ridiculous.
And their data was amazing. It showed that for the women between 50 and 60 who had a mammogram, instead of the background risk of breast cancer being the typical one, which is 23 cases per 1,000, the risk went up by 4 cases in 1,000. So of 1,000 women on HRT, 4 extra cases. But what they never published was the headline that said more than a glass of wine a night increases the risk by 5 cases, and being overweight or obese increases it by 24 cases, so it more than doubles.
So the amount of scaremongering when it comes to things like HRT, we have women that are suffering, they're getting the sweats, they're getting the mood swings, their lives are a misery, and they're afraid to take the pill or a HRT to alleviate their symptoms because they think they're going to get breast cancer. That's out there and it's not being busted. I know an awful lot of people who are suffering horribly and they won't take HRT.
If you're unlucky enough to have breast cancer in your future, and sadly many of us are because it's the commonest female cancer, and that cancer has a hormone receptor on it, theoretically, after about 5 years or more on HRT, the cancer might start to grow a little bit faster because you're feeding it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
But you are going to get that cancer
Anyway.
And the amazing thing about that study is, of the women who are taking the actual horse urine poor quality hormone, the death rate from breast cancer was lower because hormone-sensitive cancers are easier to detect
Can you
and
take
fix. And
because you...
antidepressants?
In fact, you often have to.
Say that again.
I'm sorry, I'm taking
Yes, you
HRT.
can.
I thought I couldn't take, because I take my antidepressants.
all the time.
And I
All
thought
the
I
time.
couldn't take it.
I've been on HRT for the last 4 years now. It's not something I like to talk about often because it's been devastating.
But you should.
But I have been on it for 4 years. I started when I was 38 because I was having all these horrendous symptoms. A decade too young for it, might I? I didn't know what the hell was going on. But I was scared as well. Is this going to cause a bad effect? But there's various ways of taking HRT. It's not just shoving estrogen down your
No, I mean I'm on it myself 15 years, and
15 years?
Yeah, because I'm 50. I'm going on 58, and I started like you quite young. I was 42, and it literally my periods just stopped and my mood hit the deck. And I knew what was happening, but I was just kind of pissed off that I was 42 years of age. But the beautiful thing is when you're knowledgeable in this area and you travel to the UK and Italy and you go to all the updates, I can tell you to a woman, every expert in women's health who's
on HRT.
They're all
Explain this to me then. So I haven't had a period in a year. I've had all the symptoms.
What age are you?
I'm 54.
Okay, so you're right in the zone. Yeah.
So it's going to get worse?
Some things will disimprove. So the flushes and the sweats, if they've stopped, are probably gone.
Yeah.
Please God, for good. But things like collagen deficiency issues, like pelvic floor, skin, hair,
that's gone. Yeah.
Vaginal integrity, vaginal tone, that could get worse year on.
Okay. So you recommend I should go on HRT?
No, it really isn't. You hear what I have to say, good or bad, and then you have. There are some risks, like estrogen in
suffering.
No, estrogen in tablet form has a slight association with blood clots, like with the pill. Much less with HRT than the pill, but it's important. But when you use it as a patch, no association with blood clots. So if I was going to prescribe for someone who was over 54, wasn't too sure whether they needed it or wanted, I would certainly start with a patch, not a tablet.
So is the patch also, it doesn't affect the liver as much, is that right?
Yeah. So when you swallow any steroid tablet, it has to be processed in your liver before it gets to your blood and then on to the organs that it works on. When you use hormones through the skin, they avoid what they call the first pass through the liver. So it's much healthier in the long term for the liver, and it doesn't seem to have any clotting issues associated.
And you know what, if you're bad for remembering to take tablets at the same time every day, you're whacked. I have the patch just above my unicorn at the moment, actually. It's great altogether.
And just another thing, one more question.
One at a time, ladies, one at a time.
No, just if you've been on the tablet form, is it easy to switch to patch?
Well,
so
I think easy is a mean word, but it's not it's not rocket science. You just
kind
stop
of wait
one
to the
time.
end of your month and cycle and then just go.
Everyone's unique. Like I'll have a woman who said, "Oh my God, I hated the tablets, but the patches, I was a new woman." And other people will say exactly the opposite.
So
there's no rhyme or reason.
What did you notice now when the difference?
You see, because all the issues I was having, my coil fell out basically, for want of a better word. So I had no progesterone. My estrogen was low anyway. When I was taking so much estrogen, I'd blown up like a balloon, and the growth I had got really, really big as well. So everything just blew up on me all at once there. So I switched to the patch, and yes, things like the hot flashes did come back with a bang, like the night sweats and everything were absolutely horrendous. But it's evening out now. I'm feeling much better now. Like I'm having a bit of a power surge now, but it wouldn't have been as bad as it started in the tablet. And it's there and it's constant, and you remember, I change it twice a week and that's it.
Twice a week.
But you are complicated because if you have other problems, estrogen can feed a fibroid and make it bigger. So you've got to be careful with big fibroids. With little fibroids, it's never a big problem, but with big ones, you've got to be careful.
Yeah, I know. It's huge. It was absolutely massive. It was
How do the patches stay on?
Super duper adhesive. You can swim, sauna, jacuzzi, and then you're left with a big lint
I'm just
ring.
interested in all this stuff.
You know what, I wish to God I had something stretchy on, because I'd nearly show you my patch. That's how easy it is. I showed you
Mine
the
is
break.
too low. Mine is too low.
You see things that no daytime person might
Is it like
ever see.
like a bandage?
It's about that.
It's a square.
Well, people see it like a nicotine patch.
Nicotine patch.
Yeah, only
It's like a
see-through.
Well, would you see it if you're wearing a bikini? Would you see it?
If you push
Not
that
if you
high
put it in the right
unless you're wearing a
place.
thong.
That
just comes to me so.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to wear the thong. But there's other things, and I think a lot of people are going to be watching this going, "Oh my God, thank God I got some education about the menopause," because it can start as early as your 30s if you're unlucky, and it can go on for some people into their 60s.
Why does it go on so long into your 60s?
Because we're women and the word is not made for us.
I saw a woman, I met a woman recently, she's a friend's mother, and she's now in her late 70s and has been on HRT for about 25 years. I've never seen anyone whose skin looked so amazing. So it must have a huge impact on
It does have a cosmetic benefit, there's no question about it, but we have to be careful. I mean, we're medical health professionals, we're not doing it for wrinkles.
Extraordinary how.
But it does, it helps.
Yeah.
You know that Dr. Miriam Stokes, you know the one she writes for the paper?
Yeah.
She's in her 70s and she looks phenomenal. She's been on it.
Now you would use
take hormones just for your face.
So you reduce it down, do you? Reduce it down to
So a lady in her 60s or 70s wouldn't use half of what you or I would.
Can I talk to you about things like hair loss as well? well when it comes to that age, because a lot of cosmetic things happen as well, which are very upsetting if you're battling all the other demons.
That's a natural part of aging anyway, that you're going to start to notice bits of scalp you never seen before.
Yeah, bald patches.
But estrogen helps promote hair. That's why your hair falls out after you give birth. Yeah. Your estrogen level drops.
Really? The baby's a parasite. I broke my tooth.
The baby's a parasite.
It was a parasite.
They take
all the good stuff.
But they do. They take everything.
You shouldn't have been trying to eat the baby.
And sorry, because I'm very interested in all of this. But when it comes to things like earlier diagnosis, like people like me who have had it, it's very rare. We don't really know what causes it. So how can you recognise? Because I know when it started me first, they were like, oh my God, it could be something more sinister.
If a woman is sort of 45 plus, getting symptoms, is weathering them okay, and has no real big problem with how they are, you don't have to make anybody consider hormones. But if somebody is young,
if you're 35 and it starts picking up,
it is indefensible for a doctor not to supplement those hormones, because if a woman starts her estrogen deficiency journey too early, her risk of cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, colorectal cancer, glaucoma, Parkinson's, I could just go on, is way too high.
And that's important to say as well, because of the whole scaremongering over HRT. If, in my case, if I hadn't been taking hormones, and I think there was a few years when I should have been that I wasn't, I missed a few, and that has caused a bit of damage, I think, to my bones. But we'll talk about that in a second now.
That's
things like
other work.
Don't mention so we have the osteoporosis. There is a higher risk of a load of diseases if you don't have the hormones feeding your body and making things work well. Yeah. So you have to supplement. It's
and you know the funny thing is, people are terrified of breast cancer, and I am too, and I don't blame them. But many more women are going to be affected by cardiovascular disease and fractured hips, which is going to disimprove their health, their longevity. And using hormones will actually protect against those much more common problems.
Now, before we go, I know we're going way over on this, and we're running out of time, but I need to talk about what Debbie brought up, the bio-identical hormones. I mean, is that snake oil?
Very quickly. In America, the Food and Drug Administration would not approve the natural pharmaceutical hormones, and the horse urine products had the market share, and still do for the most part. So in America, a group of private laboratories got together and started to privately compound natural hormones at enormous cost, so that you'd have a choice away from the horse urine. We have had natural hormones through the chemist for decades.
Here.
Yeah. So there's no need for a woman to ever use a bioidentical. Moreover, the compounding labs that create them are not regulated. None of those products have a CE mark on them. We don't know that.
But you know what? I know somebody who was on the...
Yeah.
And it was costing, I couldn't believe it when she told me, about 16 grand a year.
Yeah. What? My average HRT is €15.
I'm not messing.
Patches are about 20.
Yeah, because that actress, an actress, she was on Ellen, she was on Oprah, and she was going, we're all being poisoned by, these bio-identicals, are the way forward. And
so you just have, basically, the treatment we have, if you get the right treatment.
We are so lucky. If you know what you're doing, we have about, I would say 80% of the HRT I prescribe is bio-identical, by the way, is a made-up word.
Yeah.
It's body identical.
Yeah.
So the molecules are the same as the 17-beta estradiol that comes out of our ovary. The progestogen is the same as the progesterone that comes out of our ovary. We can buy them in the pharmacy. We don't need.
Are they generic?
It's just
HRTs
do you know what? That's funny. There's no generic companies. It's all proprietary pharmaceutical, but they're all off patent. So I don't know why some generic brand doesn't take them up.
I'm after going way over. I'm going to have to get you back on. No, don't apologise. I could talk to you about this all day. You'll have to come back on soon and fill us in more about women's health. It's been an absolute fantastic education. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. And Aileen, keep an eye out now for all those symptoms, because they're chasing you there.
It's great that it's something to look forward to in the future, because there's so many things there that